Welcome back. Welcome to Nothing But Nets. Some breaking news. Well, some breaking rumors. Jimmy Butler's days in Miami could be coming to an end at the end of the 2024-25 season, and he could potentially, rumors has it, be heading to Brooklyn. Joined by my NBA expert, Nate. Nate, introduce yourself and what are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler, the player? He'll be 35 in a couple of weeks. What's your thoughts on Jimmy Butler, the player, first before we get into how he was bit on a Nets rebuild?
Harry, happy Labor Day weekend. Thank you again for having me on the show. I always love talking sports, hoops, football, whatever it is with you. Um, Jimmy Butler. So you kind of backstage said you led me into this saying maybe I probably wouldn't like the move that much. I love Jimmy Butler as a player, especially you and I are old school, at least on the internet in terms of basketball. I love his kind of old school mentality. He could fit on any team when I answer in every one of your questions with a playoff asterisk next to it. He is absolutely a player I would want my team in the playoffs. I've never looked at his playoff stats. I have no clue what they are, but I would want him on my team if I need to win a series. He brings he's on the Heat and there's this cliche of Heat culture. He brings like Jimmy Butler culture wherever he goes. Whether it's Minnesota had an edge when he was on Minnesota. Obviously Chicago. I can't speak for Chicago fans, but I'm sure they were probably more prideful in Jimmy Butler than any player since Michael Jordan. That's a guy you just love to have on your basketball team. Bottom line, was he born 20 years too late and maybe fits better in the 1995 NBA? Sure, but the guy can still get it done. And yeah, his age is a factor, but he's a guy that doesn't rely on his athleticism. He never has, and he probably never will. So it's not great that he's 35 years old, but it's not a guy that's going to lose his bounce and his game like a Russell Westbrook. Once he loses that first step in athleticism, it's what is there to his game, and maybe that's why he's kind of bounced around so much recently. Jimmy, not the same case.
I wanted to ask you about that because Jimmy, he's 30, he'll be 35 in a couple of weeks. So his 34th season, he didn't really show any signs of decline. Jimmy was as good as he always was on both ends of the court. And I love Jimmy Butler's game too. I've said for years. I remember in 2012, 2013, on the Nets' first year in Brooklyn, they lost to the Bulls in 7. And that was kind of Jimmy's coming out party. I was like, holy, this guy can play on both ends. And then he was coming up the bench at that particular time. But then he quickly turned himself into an all-star. And you saw that coming if you paid attention to that series that the Nets lost to the Bulls in 7. So I like Butler. It's not a question of Butler. It's play. It's a question of his age. So he'll be 35 this year, and then after that, he's not extended. It didn't seem. Go ahead.
I want to interrupt you, but as you're bringing my brain to that series,
Yeah.
you're talking about number 21, Jimmy Butler on the Bulls, right?
Yep.
Would you rather have that Jimmy Butler on your team or last year's Jimmy Butler on your team?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it
I
depends.
for any other player, it's easy, right?
Yeah.
But he's one of those like, is he getting a little bit more seasoned and kind of like a fine wine where it's like, wow, I almost it's a question. It's you could make an argument for both sides. Like last year's Jimmy Butler or 2 years ago Jimmy Butler at 34, 33 is arguably I want on my team in a playoff series than that young 21 number 21 Jimmy Butler that had slightly more athleticism, but like could he think the game? Could he I love him. I love him.
Again, it's not a question of Jimmy's game uh, or Jimmy's ability. Where is he at 35? Well, he'll be 35, and then next year he'll be 36 with the Nets rebuilding. I just don't see how they can be a worse possible fit for the Nets time frame than adding a 36-year-old Jimmy Butler, even if he still plays at an all-star level for one more year. What does that do for the Nets, right? Like if 20, what would it be, 25, 26, he still averages 23 points a game on fairly efficient shooting, gives you top-notch defense, does everything that Jimmy does, and he plays at an all-star level.
Before did
I can,
I
you,
you can hear
you,
me just fine?
you,
No
you,
echo? All
Yeah,
right,
go
my
ahead.
some my headphones were glitching, so I kind of missed the first part of that question. My apologies.
Oh, no worries. If Jimmy still plays at an All-Star level, there's no decline 2 years from now in Jimmy Butler, and he's still playing at the same level.
What do the Nets get out of that?
What do the Nets get out of it?
I mean, uh, I said this earlier. Like he brings his own culture. It's like a Heat culture where he brings like Jimmy Butler culture to your team. And if you're gonna have a, we don't know who it's gonna be. We've talked about this in terms of a Dylan Harper or a Cooper Flag or a Ace Bailey. Like Jimmy Butler fits with almost anyone. And if you're at that team, I mean, by 2 years from now, you're obviously gonna hopefully be making a playoff push. Jimmy Butler is obviously going to help you get into the playoffs with whoever that top three pick is, whoever else still sticks around, whether it's the Claxtons or the Cam Thomas, whoever else might still be here from that roster. Like Jimmy Butler is a guy that I would want to be somewhat the head of the snake in terms of that leadership role and able to just teach a super young team. Like we saw it with as the Nets fans, we saw with D'Angelo Russell was somewhat that mentor, head of the snake, veteran
Yeah,
guy. So if D'Angelo Russell can do it and get you to a 7-8 seed and change the culture where you can attract a KD, a Kyrie, and we all know what happened from there, then absolutely I would want Jimmy Butler on my team to do somewhat the same. I'm not giving him a 5-year contract, but I would want him in this rebuild transition stage where again in 2 years you're going to be making that playoff push, and who knows how high the expectations will be. Jimmy Butler is going to be a piece to your team. I would want him even if he's lost a step and he's coming off the bench. I just want him in the locker room. He's a D'Angelo Russell plus 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 plus. If we're looking to rebuild that Sean Marks culture, where are we? 8 years later.
if the Nets don't trade Cam Johnson or Dorian Finney-Smith, they still have they'll have $70 million worth of cap space. If they're able to get off both those guys off the roster, they'll have $105 million of open cap space going into next offseason. How much would you be willing to pay Jimmy Butler for that role that you just? I'm being honest. You gave a pretty good argument. You made a pretty good argument for him, right? Like I went from thinking this is the worst idea ever to hating it slightly less, right? Like you made a pretty good argument for him. How much would you be willing to pay him to fill that role as the leader in the locker room on a bad team that's getting better?
I mean, again, they're not 2 years from now. They're not going to be a bad team, assuming if Sean Marks thinks that
We'll
way, he
get to
shouldn't be
Sean
the
Marks
GM
in a minute.
anymore. But in 2 years
Yeah.
from now, they're going to be a better roster. They should be a better roster according to whatever plan he's currently in the middle of executing. But if you have Jimmy Butler, one of the top three picks, who's in his second year, who's blossoming into a who knows what, along with you think Cam Thomas is going to be, you already have that tertiary, scorer. So then is Jimmy Butler your two? Is Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper that premier NBA player with the ball in their hands? That can be that go-to primary guy for you. But also, if you look at the free agent class, it's like, are you getting LeBron James to Brooklyn?
No, I mean, I don't even again. I don't even want these things. I try to stay away from players who are over 28. Like that is
Right, right.
ultimately
And there's
28
a
is
lot
kind
of
of
that though.
yeah.
You bring up Julius Randle all the time. He's a free agent there. It's like, do you want Julius Randle on this team
No, but that's gonna happen. Like
over
no, I
Jimmy
don't.
Butler? So just looking at the free agent list, there's you brought up the name earlier when we were speaking, Brandon Ingram.
I was gonna get to
And
that. Yeah.
is it attractive? Yeah, I'm still I'd want Jimmy for those 2 years. You asked specifically money wise. I'll equate it since we seem to always bring up the Jets as that's our mutual interest football wise. It's kind of like the Hassan Reddick thing. Whatever he wants this year, fine. You know what I'm saying? As long as he's not my issue 2 years from now when we need to pay Sauce and all those guys. But whatever he wants now, Jimmy needs. I think he's making 45, 50 mil right now. If you give him a 2-year deal, that's a lot of money. 90 million, something, a lot of money. But like we've talked about this. You got to pay someone. That's why Claxton got the money. You can't not pay anyone. And if the free, I mean, it's the NBA, so other guys will come available via trade, and I'm sure they'll always be on the phone with that. But are you getting Sengun from the Rockets? Probably not. He's
He's
probably signing max there.
yeah.
There's not a lot for you. So if I could kick Jimmy for 2 years, give him what he wants, and help me shift the culture in Brooklyn like they did years ago with D'Angelo Russell, it's almost like a guarantee it's going to happen. You got a top three pick. You got Jimmy Butler. You got a rim protecting center that can one of the best in the league, switching onto guards. Like we've got some pieces. We're already a playoff team with those guys, in my opinion, with some role players, super role players filled in here and there.
So there's like okay, so a 2-year deal, $40 million a year, 2 years, 80 million, or some equivalent
Yeah.
of that is. I'm telling you, you're selling this better than.
Did you freeze, Gary?
Absolute short. No, you're good. You're good. Am I
Okay,
frozen?
it's all right.
Yeah, you're good.
No, you're good. You were for a
I
second.
went from
I'm having
thinking.
issues. My fault.
Oh, you're coming over fine. Like you sound
Great.
crystal clear, and you're not your video is not frozen or anything.
Keep it moving.
I went from thinking this is the worst idea ever. Like this is the dumbest idea ever. Thinking, all right, this is less dumb. Now I'm actually like entertaining buying this car that I don't really want. Right? Like
And people
yeah.
ask why I come on your podcast. It's because I can speak to you. For some reason go ahead.
Now I'm asking buying questions. I went from I'm not interested at all. Get away from me, kid. To now I'm asking buying questions. So a 2-year, $80 million deal. I'm looking at the free agency. I don't want Randall. I like Randall. He's a Texas guy. He's from Dallas. He's obviously a good player. I just don't want him. Kyrie Irving will be available. Yeah.
James Harden is he on that list?
Miles Turner, I don't really know how that fits in. Aaron Gordon is someone I want, but you would still have money to sign Gordon too, right? Like that wouldn't stop you from signing if you're able to get rid of Cam Johnson or Dorian Finney-Smith.
Listen, you better have a top 4 team in the East if I'm signing Aaron Gordon as a role player.
I think we're going to have a major difference of opinion on Aaron Gordon too. I think that's going to be another.
I mean, his best years are behind him. We can't argue that. This is the guy that lived above the rim. That playing with Nikola Jokic is like playing next to Aaron Rodgers. Like it's obviously Randall Cobb is going to look good. Obviously Alan Lazard is going to look good. Obviously, if you just stand in the dunker spot and he flips it over his head while he's not looking, or spinning, throwing it behind his, like what Nikola Jokic does is like the greatest thing since the Jason Kidd effect, since we're on a Nets podcast, in terms of like making other guys money, making like how did Kenyon Martin look in Denver? That was his prime. That was his premier. How did Richard Jefferson look when he left New Jersey? He was a 6-man role player everywhere. Did Nenad Kristic play? He probably would have been back in Romania if not playing with Jason Kidd. Nenad Kristic was like a double machine, like bulky knock bar. All of these, we can go on and on and on of like guys Jason Kidd got paid. Scott McCullough got a $40 million deal.
Yeah.
Todd McCullough, I'm sorry. Jason Kidd. It's the same thing with Nikola Jokic. It's like Michael Porter, as much as Knicks fans want to be like, oh, if we had Michael Porter, Michael Porter is great because he's playing next to Nikola Jokic and he's a 6'10" guy that can shoot the ball. I think it's the same thing with Aaron Gordon. And he's a guy that when I think Aaron Gordon, I think Arizona flying above the rim like a mini Blake Griffin type, where it's like, is that what you want? You want Blake Griffin in his waning days again? We already saw that as a Nets fan, and that's how I see Aaron Gordon once he's really, really loses that verticality and that athleticism. What is he?
I looked at Aaron Gordon. Yes, obviously playing with Joker is going to make you better. Granted, it's also going to prolong your career. Granted, but if you got Aaron Gordon from Orlando, Aaron Gordon circa 2018 or whatever his best years. I'm sorry. What was that?
I said you don't though. You don't
because of the age. You're saying because he's not old. We're talking about Jimmy Butler being 35. Aaron Gordon's 28. I understand his play
it's
is
the
not
same argument with Russell Westbrook, right? I just said once he loses his athleticism.
Yeah, it's Blake Griffin. It's Russell Westbrook. I get it.
It's like Steph Curry at 36. However, I don't even know how old Steph Curry is, and it doesn't matter because his skill of just running track and shooting within a split second of catching the ball and able to make it better than anyone in the world from any spot on the court is like there's nothing to compare to that. And he's not going to lose that because he can't jump as high, or like when Steph Curry can't dunk, or whatever it is, he's still going to have so much value with Aaron Gordon and Westbrooks and the guys who, like, again, when I think athleticism, I don't want that guy at 30, especially if and with him and Claxton on the floor, that's what you want. You want Claxton in the dunker spot and you want Gordon in the dunker spot, because more than likely it's like Aaron Gordon on our team is going to be pushed to the corner.
That was
and
my
then
next
he's
question.
not as efficient.
So, Gordon is basically a 4, but also your backup 5, right? So when Claxton's off the court, Gordon goes in the dunker spot. but you can also play them together.
Well, that's terrible. I do not want Aaron Gordon as my backup five. There's no way in hell.
We go
Defensively,
small
he
and
provides.
athletic.
No, you
I,
go no
I,
rim protection. You go absolutely no rim protection. You just can't afford to
you
do
got
that.
Clowney
I
at
mean, again,
four
like
though. At that point, you
picture,
know what I'm
but Aaron
saying?
Gordon is so successful because Jokic has the ball as a point guard all the time. Aaron Gordon might be the only guy near the paint at times during lots of Nuggets possessions. You know what I'm saying? That's Claxton's rolling alley oop space right now. And well, we've talked about Claxton. I hope he's able to get that kind of Hartenstein push shot. But it's like that's that's where Aaron Gordon's going to live too, within 18 feet of the basket. And he's not that great defensively. He's a better
he's
defender.
an athlete. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but he's played in playoff games. He knows how to rotate. He's a good NBA defender, but he's not like a guy that I think athleticism. I think above the rim. I don't think elite shooter. I don't think elite defender. And like those are the guys I want on my team in the playoffs, surrounding my 1A, my one guy. You know what I'm saying? That's guys that can do multiple things at a high level. And that's once he loses his high level athleticism, what is he to me? And once he loses Jokic, he's already a guy I really don't want. Yeah, we definitely see two different ways on Aaron Gordon.
The other question I had, we'll get to Brandon Ingram in a second because that's the guy that I want. And I don't know if it's smart, but that's what I want. I don't know if that's an impulse buy or something, but I want to get back to Jimmy Butler for a second. At the end of his career, Jimmy Butler's been so close to and he's been on so many good teams. He's never really been on bad teams for prolonged periods. Would he even entertain the idea of signing a 2-year deal with the Brooklyn Nets, where they are currently? Let's say they draft Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey. Let's say they even get that guy. Would he entertain that? He's like, I'm not finishing out my career, the last few years of good years of my career playing for the Brooklyn Nets.
I don't see that at all. Um, I see Jimmy Butler as a guy just knowing his personality through media and whatnot, as a guy that really takes pride in shifting the culture himself. He is not ever going to pull a KD. Jimmy Butler will not join the Warriors for 2 years and play defense into two rings. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy that takes pride into taking down the Celtics on his own and being that he wasn't the whole country loved him, but he was like that figure where he puts that face like he lives for that moment. Um, the bottom line is if he thinks he can help shift the culture and win with the Nets, just like he did in Minnesota, he played with a young Carl Anthony Towns. That team didn't have
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Edwards. They weren't anything that he did. He obviously shifted the culture in Chicago. Granted, he was drafted there. Same thing in Miami. Miami Heat would not have been in the finals 2 years ago if not for Jimmy Butler. And it was Jimmy Butler with who? Tyler Hero. Like, it's not guys where he's like, oh, I need superstars I can't make the final. Jimmy Butler knows when it comes down to playoff basketball, if I got good teammates around me, like we can win a series. We can win a 7-game series. So it is in his eyes. If he thinks the Nets are good enough, I guess it more Sean Marks has a lot to do with that, with the roster he's able to build. But if he's able to be the head of a snake and if Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey is the next guy that he wants to play next to, and like I said, there's already a Claxton here. You think there's already a big time sixth man, or at least at the minimum a big time sixth man in Cam Thomas that could get buckets for you and on tough playoff defenses and one on one and mid range. Like there's a lot to like here if he wants, and obviously dollar signs are going to play a role. And who's to say, just like a JJ Redick, where it's like he might want to live here, he might want a career. You know what I'm saying? He might be thinking off the court too. I'm not going to say absolute no, black and white, to Jimmy Butler coming. Absolutely not.
The other thing I wanted to kind of shift to was he's kind of had a standoff here with Riley, the GM of the Heat, where he said, and Riley didn't tell him he was wrong. Riley just said, I don't know why you're thinking like that. He said that if he played in the playoffs with this current Heat team, they would beat the Knicks or Celtics. Your thoughts on that? If he had played, if he was healthy in the postseason, hypothetically,
And that's
the
that's
Heat.
that's Jimmy Butler. That's Jimmy Butler in a nutshell. That's why I want him on the team. That's why I want him on the Nets with young guys that are like as soon whoever the rookie is, whoever can't, like he's here and he's coming to win. He's not coming to help guys out or help guys become pros. Like Jimmy Butler's coming to win, and if you could help him and help the team, like he's gonna be all on your side. We've seen that. I'm not surprised he said that. I don't. Is it feasible?
I mean, they've done it, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
doesn't
they've
look
already
like
beat
so
the
on paper, but
Celtics.
he's done it. Yeah, he's done it.
Yeah,
So
he's already done it, and why? Yeah, why? I wouldn't expect him to say anything different. He just did it 2 years ago when the whole world picked the Celtics to beat the Heat, and I told you I thought the Knicks could beat the Heat. I mean, I thought the Knicks could beat the Celtics. We disagreed there, but yeah, why would in a 7 game series with Jimmy Butler on your side, and they have a good roster. They have guys that a Team USA player and Bam Adebayo. They got shooters around them, but yeah, why wouldn't Jimmy Butler be able to win in a 7 game series?
I think it's reasonable, because they don't win in the regular season. It's not the same thing, right? Because the Heat will be an 8 seed, 9 seed, whatever, 7, 8, 9 seed in the regular season. Everyone will say they're no good, and then they'll go on a playoff run like they always do. Um, Pat Riley didn't say that Jimmy Butler was wrong. Pat Riley simply said, in order to beat the New York Knicks or the Celtics, you have to play. He didn't play, so I don't even know
He
why
doesn't
he's
like
thinking
talking.
that way.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't.
Pat doesn't.
Yeah.
He's old school. He's old school, Pat. Yeah, of course.
So now I want to get into the guy. Look, I am now not against the idea of Jimmy Butler. I'm open to the conversation. I'm open to if
I
the
feel
price is
accomplished
right.
already.
Yeah, no, seriously. I'm not saying I want Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm open to that conversation on a 2-year deal. I'm open to it. The player I actually want, and you're gonna tell me why this is stupid, and I'm still probably gonna want him, right? It's like that really sexy model. You know she's a terrible girlfriend. You know she's not gonna treat you right, but like she looks really good. Like she looks really good. I
You're
want
answering your
Bi.
own question.
I love Bi's game. I've loved him since he was on the Lakers. I think he's Kevin Durant. That's 2 inches shorter. I love everything about his offensive game. He can defend multiple positions. He's become a better defensive player with his wingspan. Brandon Ingram, is that a guy that you could pursue on a max deal if you're the Brooklyn Nets next year?
You answered everything yourself in the question. No, probably not. I would talk to Jimmy first. Um, he's a guy that
I mean,
I don't know if
Ingram is 8 years younger than Jimmy Butler. Ingram is still only
I know
27.
he's like 26, 27.
Well, he'll be
Yeah, no.
27. Yeah, he'll be 27. I just
No,
looked it up.
I hear you. I guess you don't see a lot of guys if they become the player they kind of are at this point in their career. You don't see a guy at 28 and then 29 changing his game. Like when KD, I like the comparison with KD, but it's like young KD and young BI are similar, but KD was really able to blossom into the player he is now, where you saw in the Nets, he could be a point guard at times. Like he can make
Yeah.
other people around him better. He can score from anywhere on the floor, including 5 feet behind the 3 point line, which Brandon Ingram can't do at a consistent level. Like so, KD has blossomed into what he is and a top player of all time. Brandon Ingram has, as of right now, just shown he like to me he's just kind of flatlined in his career. Whereas like I don't see his ceiling. I did 4 years ago see his ceiling as like, oh my God, he's this long. Like you said, he got better defensively, like his Kevin Durant thing. I've kind of seen it somewhat flatline where it's like all of a sudden he's turned into like this generation's Carmelo Anthony, where yeah, he's giving you 30 most nights. He's whatever he's averaging, and he's top 10 score, whatever he is. All these numbers are great. His length, his again, great one-on-one scorer, but like what does he do to impact winning? And guys like Carmelo Anthony showed that even in the playoffs, where he can score, but when he can't score, he doesn't get people around him better, and he doesn't win in the playoffs. He just guys we talked about that elevate their games in the playoffs, even if it was shocking, like to most people with Jalen Brunson, where a 6'10" scorer like Bi you kind of expected, but when the Pelicans are in the playoffs with Zion and Bi, no one's really scared of Brandon Ingram as that unstoppable force, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm giving a 26-year-old max money. And speaking of like, if you want to go into just the off the court stuff with culture, it's like again, I'd rather have Jimmy Butler as the head of my snake, mentoring Cooper, Dylan, Ace, whoever it is, and shifting that culture than Bi, who I think would be there when he has to, like when he has to show. It's just not the same type of pro, not the same type of yeah, it's a good word, not the same type of NBA professional that Jimmy Butler is.
So I just looked the numbers up. A max contract next offseason will be 4 years, basically 200 million, 199.5 million for Ingram. You you can wear your Sean Marks hat. Do you offer that to Brandon Ingram next year? 4 years, 200 million.
No, because I want someone else. I want someone else because then I'm tied down to him. And when I can't even, when Anthony Edwards, I don't know, just saying a name. It's the NBA. Guys pop up
Yeah.
all the time. You're going to be like, damn, we have Brandon Ingram and we're stuck in this 6th seed in the East for the next 4 years to wear out of his contract where our ceiling is making it to the second round with Brandon Ingram. You know what I'm saying? I just rather would have someone else. I'm not saying he's not going to get that. And he, like you said, you brought up his numbers and all that. He's probably going to get a contract like that. I
Someone's
just
going to
don't
give it
want
to
it.
him. It's just a matter of who, right? Someone's
Yeah,
going to,
I
someone's going to
argued
pay
with
him.
Knicks fans for the last 4 years about as long as you have RJ Barrett on your team, you're probably not going to win. Like, oh, but he's the 18 points a game, 20 points a game scorer, and no one under how many guys under 24 in the league? Like, all these random statistics. Like, all right, but try to watch RJ Barrett play basketball and realize he does nothing at an NBA level or doesn't excel at everything at an NBA level. In the playoffs, I'd rather have Patty Mills in the playoffs than RJ Barrett.
I
There's
really,
nothing he
this thing that you have against guys who can, RJ Barrett, for a guy his size and strength, can handle the ball. Like, I'm not an RJ defender. I don't think RJ is any great shakes, but like Patty Mills is useless. Like Patty, I don't.
Gary, I have a homework assignment for you. Show me RJ Barrett making a righty layup in an NBA game.
I, I'm sure
And
I
send
can
me a
find it,
clip.
but I'm gonna have to go through some. I'm gonna have
No,
to go
it's terrible.
through.
Like for every highlight you see, I watch a lot of Knicks games. Dude, he is like Angel Reese in terms of just throwing his body and then going for a lefty layup and looking at the ref and like I guess sometimes he goes the line. There's nothing to his finishing game around the rim. He was one of the more poor finishers around the rim. Like there's nothing to his finishing game besides a Euro step or that body bump. Like that's all he has around the rim. Shooting wise, I don't want the ball in his hands.
He's
I
not
don't.
good.
I don't
Yeah,
want the ball in his hands.
he's
He's
not a finisher.
not a good playmaker. We just talked about this. He doesn't get anyone else better. Defensively, these guys were attacking him on that Knicks team. They were attacking him specifically, like almost as bad as worse than Julius Randle. So I just and he was a guy that due to the stats, like due to the stuff we brought up, that was gonna deserve X amount of money. The Knicks fans, oh, we haven't had a draft pick this good and blah blah. Blah. Yeah, because your draft picks suck. That doesn't mean you pay someone that's mediocre. So that once they made that trade, I mean, you don't hear Knicks fans bitching about RJ Barrett at all because you replaced him with someone who's better at almost everything and at the same contract he was going to get. Like obviously the office targeted OG, made the right move for OG, better shooter, more versatile defender, one of the best defenders in the league, can rebound, can do everything you want in a playoff series better than RJ Barrett, who scores 32 points against the Portland Trailblazers, and now every RJ Barrett, truther can. It's like Zach Wilson. It's just like, all right, not as bad as Zach Wilson, but it's not getting done in the Celtics against the playoffs. RJ Barrett's not going to be that guy, and his numbers demanded that. So that's I'm not. They're not. Not say it's the same player as Brandon Ingram, but that same process of just like, yeah, he's gonna get that money, but if you're the team that's paying him, you're saying you're the team that's not winning a championship because now you don't have enough money to fit in the championship pieces around him.
But when you say things like Patty Mills and like you like guys who can stand outside and shoot threes, I get it.
Okay, that was
So
a
let's say
tough Dante. Does Dante change it?
I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do that again. 15 minutes a game. Let's say Patty Mills plays 15 minutes a game. And let's say he takes 4 threes. And let's say he hits 2 of them. So he shoots 50% from 3 that night. Well done. On the other 14 and a half minutes he played where he didn't hit those 2 threes, he gave you nothing. He was a waste of space on the court. Like that's why I just don't like
But
guys
it's like
like
no,
Patty
no, but
Mills.
Gary, I could do the same thing with you. RJ Barrett, 15 minutes. He comes into a playoff game. He
He
does
grabbed
his
6 or
body
7
bump
rebounds.
thing. He gets blocked. It immediately leads to a layup the other end. He gets it. He tries to ISO on someone. He turns it over, turns into a layup on the other end. Now he's -4. Just him having the ball. He's probably closer to -8 because if you would have had the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands, you would have scored versus not having a turnover or a bad shot lead to easy offense the other way. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like I'd rather have a guy to sit in the corner and can knock down 2 out of 4 threes than a guy like RJ Barrett that's going to go, here, RJ, let's see if this is your night to do something. Oh, wait, you're not that good against the Celtics in the playoffs. And it's 2 turnovers and 1 for 4. And it's like, why did we waste 7 possessions on you having the ball? when we
He's
have
putting
Jalen Brunson
pressure
on
on
our
the rim.
roster.
He's putting pressure on the defense. He's making the
No, he's
defense adjust. He's making the defense think. And the other guy is just standing in the corner. Like, this is
dude,
why
go
I
talk
find
to
him
an NBA
insignificant.
player. Let no NBA player is saying RJ Barrett is putting pressure on our rim. RJ Barrett's making us
This
think.
is physicality and
RJ Barrett makes you
athleticism. You
think one
have to
thing.
adjust.
He makes you think one thing. Is he going to keep pump faking me, or is he going to put his head down and drive to the left? Come on, like we know his game.
I'm not even an
We know his
RJ
game.
Barrett fan. Like, I'm not even a fan of RJ Barrett. I'm like, I don't think he's that good. But like, this thing where he's
Harry, all I'm saying
useless.
is money wise, right? I'm not saying RJ Barrett's the worst player ever. I'm just saying I'm drawing the comparison to Brandon Ingram because a guy that puts up 20 points a game, there's different. There's OG Anunoby who could put up 16 to 18, and then there's RJ Barrett who has to ruin your whole offense and takes 20 possessions and turnovers and missed layups and whatever to get that 20. And then there's OG who locks up the entire defense, is giving you
OG is
plus plus on the
infinitely
other
better
side,
than
and
Barrett.
giving you 15 to 18. But that
Is
was the choice they
much
made.
better. Yeah, he's
That was the
much
choice. I'm
better.
just saying that's the parallel I see with Brandon Ingram, where it's like if you're gonna do this route, you're probably not winning a championship with Brandon Ingram because there's not enough. You need more pieces to win a championship, and there's not enough money to do it once you gave him the max. That's my only point.
Okay, so my last question is: let's live in this world with me, where the Nets can move Cam Johnson. So they open up $105 million or whatever, 100 million, 95. It would be 95 million, 105 if they can move both guys, or 110 if they can move both guys. But let's say they move Cam Johnson, and the money is there, where you can sign Ingram for 4 years, 200 million, and then you can give. And this is all hypothetical, but just play the hypothetical with me. Ingram 4 years, 200 million, and then Jimmy Butler 2 year, 80 million. Would you sign both of them? Because if you can move Cam, you'll have that money to do that.
Listen, I can't give you a very nuanced answer, but no. Like, I'm just trying to picture Jimmy Butler and first of all, I think Jimmy Butler is closer to like would want to fight Brandon Ingram. You know what I'm saying? In
That
terms
was
of like
yeah.
like he works so much harder than every other NBA level. It's great that he went to the Heat because they were the most strict culture in terms of keeping guys in shape and all of that. I'm close. I just don't see that meshing on the court somehow. And they both need the ball. They both slow the game down so much. But the thing is, Jimmy just makes guys around him better. Like even if he's not on the court, I feel like he makes the guys around him better. But especially with the ball in his hands, where it's Bi, it's either give me 30 or give me 18, and I'm disappointed because you did nothing else for my team. So it's like Jimmy can give me 18 in the playoffs and just impact it everywhere on the glass, assists, help getting teammates open shots, getting drawing double teams. Obviously, defensively can guard like four positions on the other end, and like there's and he's proven it. So it's the Dante argument. He's done it. He's done it, and he's continued to do it. He did it last year, like you said. He hasn't showed a step of. So I wouldn't. I just want someone else, and it's the NBA. So it's not the '90s NBA where guys are on their team for 20 years. There's going to be other guys that pop up that the Nets are going to be able to grasp in their grasp, other than Bi.
You know that meme where the guy's walking with the girl, but then he's like turned around looking at the other girl, and the girl's like
Yeah,
all
yeah,
pissed
yeah,
off. That's me
yeah.
with Brandon Ingram. Like that is me with Brandon Ingram. I don't know. I just want
Once you
him.
get him, that'll be you. You'll have
Yeah.
him, and then you're just like,
I don't want him anymore. Uh,
it's that's
I just
exactly
look
it.
at an offense. If you could sign those guys, Butler, Brandon Ingram, hypothetically Ace Bailey, and Cam Thomas. Cam goes right to the bench. He becomes that Lou Williams guy, and your half-court offense is unstoppable. If you have all those guys in a half-court offense, you're unstoppable.
Again, it's like I already have Jimmy. I already have what you say, Ace Bailey, right? All these guys are gonna have the ball in their hands, and that are gonna be what we think superstars, like what Jimmy is, what we think Ace Bailey or Cooper, whoever the Nets has, is gonna be. Like it's the same argument with that we've had with the Knicks. It's like is there enough basketballs then to even have Bi out there? It's nice, but I can have a stretch four. Like I could have a Jeremy Grant out there with that team and be just as lethal possibly in a playoff series. Like because there's only one basketball. And if Cam Thomas blossoms into the player that you think he is, and then there's veteran Jimmy Butler leading the half court offense, and there's whoever you said Ace Bailey, and he's a superstar with the ball in his hands all the time. Like when does Bi, you know what I'm saying? Bi better make his first six shots, or else I'll take Jeremy Grant out there. That's a solid one-on-one player, can knock down threes, and then could defend much better than Bi. And again, it probably at a much better rate at half the price. And then I can get another. You know what I'm saying? It could just that's how I would want to build my team when there's only one basketball to go around, and I already got Cam Thomas, I already got Ace Bailey, I already got Jimmy Butler. There's just I need more for the value.
So you're completely out on giving Brandon Ingram a 4-year, $200 million contract under any circumstance for the Nets, at least.
Listen,
You don't,
if they did
yeah.
it, I'll stay strong. They're not going to win a championship. They don't have, unless Ace Bailey's LeBron James, unless he's that good. Like it's hard to win a championship paying that guy max money. Just like I don't think the Raptors now paying Quickly and RJ are going to win a championship in that window.
Well, it's incredibly difficult to win a championship, right? Like the Celtics have shown that with these guys, it took them all these years to get to one, right? The Nuggets, with the best player in the game, then Murray and all these role players, they got one. Like it is extremely difficult to win a championship. Like all I would want from the Nets is to be in contention, be like where the Knicks are right now. Like I don't know if the Knicks are going to win a championship ever with this squad. Who knows? It's really hard to do that, but they're going to be in the conversation for the next couple of years. If the Nets got Ingram and Ace Bailey to go with Cam Thomas and what they have,
I'm glad you brought that up.
can I get in that conversation?
Yeah, but in my opinion, you can get in it without Brandon Ingram. To me, it's would you rather have OG, Dante, and Deuce McBride on the Knicks, or would you rather have Brandon Ingram?
Well, I already have Brunson. Right, I have Brunson.
No, I know, but yeah, but we're talking about you
have
have Ace Bailey, you have Cam. Like we're talking about in the future, you're gonna have Jimmy, you're gonna have Ace, you're gonna have Cam. That we're talking this scenario. So I'm saying, would you rather have Brandon Ingram on that Knicks team, or would you rather have OG, Dante, and Deuce?
You gotta stop with Deuce, bro. I like Deuce too, but stop
No. But
adding
all
his
right,
name.
fine,
Like
fine, fine.
that's
Then
gonna
answer the
sweeten the
question.
deal for
Answer how
me.
you would. Answer it how you would then.
On that particular situation, I would rather have all those guys. I always value depth.
And you
I
don't
do.
even like the other two, right? But
I like
that
OG.
proves
You said OG.
no,
I
no,
like
the other
OG.
two. I'm talking about Dante. I said Dante
Oh, yeah,
and
Dante.
Deuce.
It's not that I don't like Deuce.
But that's
I
my
still
point. Is
understand
like,
the value. He's fine. He's a good player.
listen,
DiVincenzo, you can have him.
guys that can play automatically on most playoff rotations, that can play defense in the playoffs, and that are making less than 12 million a year, but both of them fall into the category or less than 15, whatever Dante's making. Deuce is on the best contract in the league. Like that's value. Those guys are that's amazing value. We're talking about guys that can guard the
DiVincenzo was
best.
on a championship roster, and he saw less game time than 35-year-old
I hear
Jeff
you.
Teague.
Listen, everyone blossoms. I know. Like he's a different player than he was on that championship team. But all I'm saying is, like, I watched Dante last year. I watched Deuce guard Tyrese Halliburton. Give him fits. Like these are guys that can guard the best guys in the league in the playoffs, right? And that can also knock down a three off of playing off of Jalen Brunson and Randall, whoever else is there. So it's like that automatically provides me playoff value. And they have such great contracts. I'm like, that's great. When those Knicks went down, they only won the playoff series because of the guys I'm talking about, because of those good value contracts they had that were able to defend and able to play that the way Tom Thibodeau wants to do and knock down threes.
The thing that is frustrating to me about your argument is that you saw Knicks having, and Brunson was, I compared Brunson in that series to Kobe. I was saying he was giving you 40 any way you wanted it.
It was like Allen Iverson.
Mid range, get to his spot, knock it down. Attack the hoop, foul, and one. Step back, let him hit the three. He hits the three. Contest the three, doesn't matter. He still hits the three. He was giving it any way you wanted it. That's how he was giving you 40. That being said, because they had no other guy that can score, they still lost that series to Indiana. If they have Brandon Ingram, they win that series. They probably sweep. Because now you don't need him to score 50 every night because 40 wasn't enough. Now I can have him score his 40, and whatever Ingram we can get
Gary,
me,
you can't
I have another guy
you can
that
say
can
the
create
same thing
shots.
with OG. If they have OG, they win that series too. So you're talking about an injury.
Okay,
So
that's
it's just
true.
an
You're
injury.
right.
Like
You're right.
you're
You're right. If
replacing
OG
Ingram
plays,
for
they for
OG.
sure
If they
win.
have OG, they win. If they have Ingram, they win. Sure, if they don't get injured, they win. Like you could replace
Sure.
OG with a lot of guys and they would have won. Like Ingram's one of them. But my point is just like Ingram is not like again, he needs the ball like a Brunson. So I just don't want him on that team. And I already have Jimmy, I already have Ace, I already have these guys. I'd rather, just like you answered my question, I'd rather have those three not all right, one superstar role player and two guys that can be in my playoff rotation out than a ball stopper that's not as good on defense. And he's my like third or fourth ball stopper on the team already. This is a scenario where Cam's blossoming all these guys. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of out on BI, and if he wins a championship, and then I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't want this to turn into Brock Bowers of the NFL draft. Like I'm not that high. I don't want Ingram that much, but I do. Like I do and I don't. I get everything you said, and I still look at him and be like, "That's the one for me." I
Gary,
understand
can you win a
everything. I
championship with
understand
Bi?
everything you said.
Can you win a championship with Bi on your roster, making that money at max
Well,
money?
New Orleans has decided that they can't. So
And they got some
I
guys around him. They had a decent roster.
can you? It is hard to win a championship. It's like, can you win a championship
Okay,
with
can
Joel
you can
Embiid?
you
Of
can you
course
make
you
the
can.
finals?
Are they
Can you
going
make the
to? I don't
finals
know. I
with
think
with
so. With Ingram as your number 2 player, yeah, I think so.
yeah, I guess we're just see different on Ingram then because I he's your number two. I don't like you said it with the guys earlier with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Like I just look at them in different lights. Same with I mean Brunson and Jokic are on like different like superstar levels. Like Jokic doesn't he's running with Jamal Murray next to him, but it's like obviously no one is Jokic. I think Brunson's going to be a top 5 candidate, and he's just so good one on one. It's still a different situation, but it's like he's not that guy as a one on one player, and that's what he is, right? We can both agree on that. He's a one on one basketball player,
Yeah, I
and I just
value that fundamentally different than you do, especially in the playoffs. I
no no
want
no
a
I
guy.
do, but I don't. If I'm giving you max money and that's what you are, you're a one on one basketball player. You better be one of the 5 best in the world. Because you're not giving me the defense. You're not giving me the making your teammates better around you. Like you're not giving me everything else. So if you're that go-to scorer, like you better not be Lou Will. Like you know what I'm saying? I need a guy who's top 5 on planet Earth. If you're max money and all you do is one-on-one ISO score, it's like you better be Carmelo then. And Carmelo didn't even get out the second round in his life.
He got to the conference finals and lost to Kobe.
Oh, Nuggets. I'm thinking of my blue and orange. You're right. But was that with AI or Chauncey?
That was what Sean said.
Chauncey.
That AI thing was, and
AI
I
didn't work
love.
out,
Yeah, that didn't work.
but I had the jerseys. Those are sweet jerseys. The
No, they
powdered
were. They were
blues.
some of the best jerseys ever.
The powdered blues. They got to bring those
Yeah.
back for sure.
All right. We went way longer than I anticipated. Nate, I appreciate your time. I agree and I don't agree with you on Ingram. Like I do and I don't. Like I agree what you said, but I still want him, kind of thing. Um,
Well, this was the Jimmy podcast, and I was able to pivot your thoughts on Jimmy slightly, so I
yeah,
feel better
I'm
about my
now
Sunday.
asking. I'm now asking the appropriate buying questions, right? Like if you're a sales coach, you're saying that guy needs to buy
Yeah,
now, right? Like
you didn't
yeah.
even want a car when you came, and now
And now I'm
you're
sitting in
seeing
a
how much.
finance office.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm feeling good.
All right, Nate. Appreciate your time. I look forward to having you on again.
Anytime, Gary. This was great. Have a good one.
September 1st, 2024, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.